made this iceberg myself, and it contains some of the darkest and most disturbing sights I could find on the web. We'll start with the slightly strange, and as the video progresses, we'll uncover the absolute worst websites humanity has to offer. Let's start at the tip of the iceberg. Level 1. Deathclock.org. Deathclock.org is a popular website with a very macabre promise. By entering information like a person's name, birth date, gender, age, BMI, and lifestyle choices, the site will predict the exact time and date a person will die. While many people believe deathclock.org is just a cheeky site created by some fitness guru, especially since the latter part of the site is filled with useful health advice, there are those who think the site is a front to steal information on its users. As for predicting actual deaths, there is no scientific proof that the death dates the site gives are actually real, yet. But if you decide to give this site a shot, you'll be one of 63 million people who have predicted their deaths on the site. Worldometers.info. During the peak of the health crisis in 2020, one website that became widely popular was Worldometer.info. It was created in 2004 and provides counters and real-time statistics for diverse topics, from the world's population to something as inconsequential as the number of emails sent in a day. The website hit its peak when it began posting statistics based on the coronavirus. In a year, it went from 65 shares to 2.5 million and became the 28th most visited site in the world. Some governments and respected institutions even quoted their numbers in their reports. The website has been called out over transparency of ownership and lack of citations to data sources. Despite this, viewers are still drawn to the page. A few have said that watching the death counter tick up in real time serves as a necessary reminder that each number was once a life that once had hopes and dreams. Creepypasta.com. Creepypasta.com is a website that was launched in 2008, becoming one of many online blogs dedicated to sharing fictional horror and chilling stories called creepypastas. Today, these stories are read along with videos, images, and GIFs of scary creatures. But back then, they were harder to find. They would appear anonymously on sites like 4chan and former internet hub Newgrounds. Over time, some became so well known that they have become urban legends and gained cult followings, like the Dianea House, the Slender Man, and no one can forget Jeff the Killer. Like the Slender Man, Jeff the Killer was one of the few creepypastas that originated with an image. The story of this creepypasta started when a bizarre picture appeared online. It showed the startlingly white face of a person with no eyelids and a grotesque smile. To this day, no one knows how this picture came to be, but that didn't stop people from throwing their 2 cents in and making up what had happened to him. One of them was a YouTuber called Sasur, who made a 2.5-minute YouTube video explaining Jeff's backstory. Jeff was a teenager who accidentally bleached his face after falling into a bathtub. He later carved his own face into the macabre smile and went on a killing spree. The last words his victim heard was, "Go to sleep." Level 2. Rentahitman.com. Rentahitman.com is the go-to website for anyone looking to end a vendetta in the most final way possible. The site has testimonials from satisfied customers whose enemies have bitten the dust at the hands of the thousands of operatives they have available. There are also discounts for groups, seniors, spring cleaning, and Air National Guardsmen. How do they get away with all these hits? They claim to be HIPAA compliant, not that HIPAA. This HIPAA stands for Hitman Information Privacy Protection Act. They even claim to be more secure than the dark web. Those who decide to contact them fill out a form and receive responses from one Guido Finelli. While many of the messages were hoaxes, some had murder on their minds. One of them was a 51-year-old American woman called Wendy Wine. She put a hit out on a man who she claimed had ripped her off of $20,000 and wanted him to pay with his life. The man was actually her ex-husband. What Wendy didn't know was that rentahitman.com was a parody. A repo man called Bob Ines ran the website. He had bought the domain name hoping to sell it later on, but soon he was tipping the police when he started getting serious requests for hitmen. Wendy was arrested for solicitation to commit murder. She is just one of more than 30 people who have tried to hire a hitman on the site and ended up in cuffs. And it's not just people hoping to get others killed. Ines had a careers page for wannabe hitmen to get hired. And a handful of people who hope to get jobs as contract killers have ended up behind bars. Here comes the apocalypse.com. For years, movies have shown how artificial intelligence will take over the world and wipe out humanity. This might seem like a purely fictional premise for some, but others believe it's only a matter of time before the world ends, either by AI or by some extreme natural disasters. So, what will you do if the worst happens and your smart fridge plots to end the world? Well, look no further than herecomesapocalypse.com. It outlines just about everything you'd need to prep if the worst happens, with information on practical methods for shelter, rationing meals and water, and self-defense, all while emphasizing preparing a budget. There are also hints on the best gifts to buy your Doom Prepper parents. This website was started by Jen, aka Jennifer Heller, a woman who wanted to create a fun and helpful disaster plan that wasn't all doom and gloom. The site also sells disaster planning tools and books to keep the wannabe prepper ready for just about any disaster. UrbanOutraged.com. In November 2021, a new online store, UrbanOutraged.com, was making waves in the world of fashion. The website featured a selection of handbags, pants, jackets, shoes, dresses, belts, anything for the fashion-savvy shopper. It wasn't the daring designs of their clothes that had many clutching their pearls, it was what they were made from: human skin. These items can be bought and delivered right to your doorstep. If wearing random people isn't to your style, there's the Afterlife collection that allows you to turn your loved one's skin into a handmade item you can use and cherish forever. There are even reviews from satisfied customers. But as you engage with the page and read closer, it's clear that there's much more going on the UrbanOutrage.com site than meets the eye. For one, none of the items on display can be ordered. Instead, when you try to order, the page opens up to images of dead animals and vivid descriptions of how they were skinned. The reason for this is that it's all fake. The online store was really a campaign by animal rights charity PETA, challenging people for wearing anyone's skin. They were also calling out stores like Urban Outfitters, Anthropology, and Free People for selling animal-derived materials. This remains one of PETA's most successful activists, as the website reached over 1.2 million page views in more than 100 countries. Nonetheless, some remain convinced that UrbanOutraged.com was an actual online store. ShaySt.John.net. ShaySt.John.net is the official website of a fictional character known as Shay St. John. She was a disturbing figure who featured in a series of campy, surrealist, comedy horror short films on YouTube in the early 2000s. Created by the late Eric Fournier, Shay's backstory is that she was once a supermodel, but after being involved in a train accident, Shay was disfigured and lost both her arms and legs. But Shay didn't want prosthetics. Instead, she rebuilt her body using parts of a mannequin and wore masks to hide a face that her creator, Eric, promised was very deformed. Like Shay, a glimpse through the ShaySt.John.net website blends avant-garde art and horror. It shows a mashup of several links that lead to bizarre images, newspaper cutouts, cryptic text, and creepy videos. Each of them features Shay's haunting persona. There's also a link to buy Shay's DVD. Several fans got them. Today, the ShaySt.John.net website has been archived. The official YouTube channel has also been terminated. However, re-uploaded videos of Shay still exist on YouTube. simulationargument.com. Have you ever wondered if the entire universe was a digital simulation, and we humans are all just characters in an advanced civilization's video game? Well, you aren't the only one. Many brilliant minds across the world argue that there's a good chance we are living in such a simulation, and reality as we know it is a cascading green code. Swedish philosopher Nick Bostrom is one of those who believe this. He introduced what is now known as the simulation argument in 2003. According to Bostrom, an advanced civilization with the right technology is likely to create simulations of their ancestors, and there are only 3 reasons they wouldn't make one. They didn't know how to create one, they chose not to create one, or we are living one. Bostrom argued that today's humans may not be the original and only have artificial consciousness put in there by the creators of our reality. Essentially, we live in a simulation, like the characters in the popular game The Sims or the 1999 movie The Matrix. Bostrom came up with this concept in 2003 and set up simulationargument.com, a website with academic papers, discussions, and resources based on the idea that life as we know it doesn't exist, and that we are all living in a powerful computer program created by higher beings. Since Bostrom made this argument, more and more people believe that there's a 50-50 chance that he could be right. For one thing, no one has figured out a way to prove it wrong. The only way to prove we live in a simulation is if someone trips up the simulation and spots a glitch in the Matrix. Even then, Bostrom claims that anyone who claims to see glitches is likely suffering from a breakdown of the mind, leaving many to conclude that the simulation argument is a paradox with no clear answers. Another thing that isn't clear is why haven't you hit that subscribe button yet? Galdrux.com. Galdrux.com, also known as the Galdrux Temple, is a website that explores Galdrux. Some say Galdrux is a chaotic multiverse god, a multiversal cult, or even the gateway to the infinite multiverse of the mind. Others believe that it is a concept that is said to be beyond human understanding that's woven into the universe. The page itself overwhelms you with loud, chaotic sounds and chatter. The site also has many mysterious images linked to Jewish religion, Buddhism, ancient Egypt, and even the Cicada 3301 puzzle. The texts on the site are just as cryptic and difficult to understand. On each page is the Eye of Galdrux, a symbol of an eye with 8 appendages that is said to be the most powerful incarnation of Galdrux. Those who believe in Galdrux are convinced that the internet is a manifestation of the eye. As for the plans and workings of Galdrux, it remains obscure even to the few who are aware of its existence. Level 3. Poopsenders.com. Have you ever thought of sending poop to someone as a prank? Well, wonder no more. Poopsenders.com is a gag website that allows users to send shit through the mail, literally. For less than $20, Poopsenders.com anonymously mails feces from cows, elephants, and gorillas. With $45, Poopsenders.com sends a combo pack of all 3, as well as a signature card tastefully placed on the nasty pile. While many suspect that it isn't real poop, the site's FAQ doesn't seem to agree with that. Poopsenders.com started back in 2007 and has been shipping poop anonymously since. The site claims it's only to be used as a gag gift and not to harass anyone. You might wonder who exactly would use their very niche services, and the site gives at least 10 reasons why they've been in business for almost 2 decades. A number of people have found themselves receiving some very smelly packages. In 2021, one American man took to Reddit to get legal advice on suing his ex after he received a shitty package of his own. On the other hand, the site's testimonial page is chock full of some very satisfied customers who have nothing but praise for poop senders for doing their smelly work for them and keeping their palms poop-free. Annie96 is typing. Annie96's typing is a mysterious story that appeared on the website storiesforyourscreen.com in March 2014 and was described as the creepiest chat history you'll ever read. The interactive chat started with a question from a person with the username Annie96 asking if the reader was asleep. As the users click the box, another user is introduced, McDavie, and the two began to chat. But what started out as an online banter between two teenagers suddenly took a turn when Annie96 heard something outside. While Annie96 worried about whatever was outside, McDavie didn't take it seriously till Annie96 told him something shocking. There is someone outside. The suspense builds as the two try to work out who the man is, only for Annie96 to reveal that it's McDavie, or someone wearing his team's jacket. Yet McDavie is adamant that it isn't him. Then Annie96 makes a spine-chilling revelation. The unknown man has spotted her and goes silent. Minutes later, she told McDavie that the man had gotten into the house and she was hiding in a closet armed with a knife. But this was not an unknown intruder. He knew her name, and he had a very sinister request. Then, as quickly as the noises and voices started, they stopped. At first, McDavie was excited and even promised to see her the next day, but then he has an unexpected thought. Then Annie96 does something terrifying. She abruptly goes offline. What happened to the burglar? Was Annie still the one chatting before she went offline? For a long time, this story sparked a torrent of debates about whether the characters were actually real. It was later revealed that it was written by Pascal Chatterjee, but it has continued to raise a lot of questions about online privacy. 973 at nama973.com. In the online forum 4chan, there's a list of strange and creepy websites. One of them is 973 at nama973.com. I'll be calling it 973 for short. 973 is a website of over 3,000 pages with thousands and thousands of files. The website is filled with an assortment of strange pictures, codes, random numbers, and sacred texts mixed in with a lot of color. At first glance, 973 looks like a whole lot of gibberish that gets even more cryptic and disturbing with nonsensical ramblings the deeper you go. But on closer inspection, there seems to be a method to the site's madness. For instance, the site's name is The Human spelled backwards. The number 973, which is also a part of the website's name, is an angel number in numerology that means spiritual awakening and inner wisdom. Another number that appears frequently on the site is 9, and it means spiritual growth. 973 also has some religious themes. There are nods to Christian concepts like biblical phrases, passages, and parables. An eccentric old Englishman called David Dennison created the site. He's been praised as a genius magician of sorts. But in the 70s and 80s, David was one of the leading advocates of surrealism in Britain, and many of the haunting paintings on the site were made by him. However, no one has been able to figure out what the site means. Some believe it is David's collection of spells and rituals to contact interdimensional beings. Others say it is a puzzle that is yet to be solved. Many are convinced that 973 is David's attempt to present his life work to the world using his own very particular understanding of reality. And that reality remains a mystery to the rest of the world. ThisPersonDoesNotExist.com. ThisPersonDoesNotExist.com is a website that generates an image of a person each time the site is refreshed. There's just one catch. None of these people exist, and all are AI generated. Despite this, the people in those images are very realistic and incredibly lifelike, and many people who have used the site admit that they can't distinguish the images from actual human beings. But as accurate as the AI images appear, they aren't 100% perfect. Once in a while, a picture appears hinting at a second person in the background off-screen. These people do not appear anything like the perfect lifelike AI-generated people. They look like distorted caricatures of regular humans. No one knows exactly why this happens, but it sure is creepy. TakeThisLollipop.com. TakeThisLollipop.com is a short, personalized, interactive horror website created by developer Jason Nickel in 2011. Using the Facebook app, viewers were asked to temporarily allow the application access to their Facebook accounts. The pictures and messages from their Facebook profiles were used to fill in details of the film itself. The film starts by showing a thin, creepy man hunched over a computer keyboard, typing. The nefarious character is known as the Facebook stalker, who has just hacked the viewer's Facebook. He's now able to see everything the user has provided on their profile page. Things they've posted, your friends, places you've gone. He uses the information on the profile and Google Maps to find the directions to your home. The viewers can only watch in horror as the stalker gets out of his car seconds later. Taped to the dashboard of his car is a picture of you. The film ends with an image of a blue lollipop containing a razor blade. Below the image is the viewer's Facebook screen name and the name of the stalker's next victim, a friend of the viewer. The film was a warning about the dangers of providing too much personal information online. In 2018, Take This Lollipop was taken offline, but it was back online by 2022 with a new release. Now, users can watch the old 2011 film or the 2020 webcam-enabled experience on the website for $3. Ted Caving Journal. Ted Caving Journal is an online diary posted on an early blog by a man called Ted, who was spelunking through an undiscovered cave with friends in March 2001. The blog posts include pictures and drawings of their caving experience. But as the entries went on, Ted began reporting unsettling things going on in the cave, like eerie sounds, demonic screams, ancient hieroglyphs, and hints that there was something else in the cave with them. One friend dropped out of the group after experiencing something that he was terrified to talk about. After another nasty experience with the unknown presence at the cave, Ted and his friend stopped exploring the cave. But even in his home, he started hearing strange sounds, seeing unexplainable things, and having horrifying nightmares. Almost like whatever had been in the cave had followed him back. When he contacted his friends, they were all experiencing the same thing. They decided to return to the cave and confront what was haunting them. That turned out to be the last entry Ted would ever make. For a long time, there were debates on whether Ted's story was real or not. It was later revealed that it was a self-published short horror story created by Ted Hegeman in 2001. While he did go caving with his friends there and also opened a new passageway, none of the weird stuff in his story actually happened. Many believe that the Ted Caving Journal could be the first ever creepypasta. WhiteEnamel.com. WhiteEnamel.com is a horror mix of a point-and-click adventure game and an interactive movie created in 2000. The player is taken through the innermost depths of a state psychiatric hospital filled with dirt and mold, while haunting, eerie music plays in the background. It is split into 7 independent parts, beginning with a bird's-eye view of the abandoned asylum. The entire building is navigated by the click of the mouse, and each click takes you through a different part of the asylum. Many people expected a game with a storyline and were disappointed when it ended. But that's because WhiteEnamel.com was not a game. It gives viewers a first-person perspective of the kind of place where mentally ill people end up in, and the kind of brutal hopelessness they live through, all while navigating unsettling visuals, cryptic audio, and hidden clues. BatheInMyMilk.com. In 2017, some disturbing flyers appeared around Los Angeles and St. Louis and soon went viral on Reddit and Twitter. The flyer showed an elderly woman watching men soak in what looked like a tub of milk. The offer was open to men only. For a chance to enjoy this thrilling experience, All they had to do was make an appointment on the bathinmymilk.com website. The website was just as disturbing as the flyers. It immediately opened to a series of pictures of the same white-haired woman in a filthy white dress standing beside men in the tub. The bathroom is filthy and dilapidated with torn wallpaper. Disturbingly, a coiled rope is lying on the ground in each photo. At the bottom of the page, visitors are prompted to click a link to make a booking. But that's when it becomes clear that all is not as it seems. The link leads to the Patreon page of a man called Alan Wagner. It was all an elaborate prank by the 26-year-old artist and comedian. Wagner devised the bizarre idea when a beverage company asked him to create a meme to make their drink go viral. When they rejected his idea, Wagner did it himself and set up his garage as the creepy bathroom. Level 4. Plenpo.com. Plenpo.com, which means full skin in French, is an old website dating back to the late 90s. It is known as the first French net art site, and has pages written in English, French, and other foreign languages. The site is a treasure trove for spam art and has some of the most interesting projects in French net art. It started as a kind of political free expression magazine, but has evolved into something almost like an art project. With numerous links that either lead to short stories, weirder websites, pictures, or now defunct, Plenpo.com is a rabbit hole all on its own. It is filled with a lot of random text, vintage images, and chats. There are also dozens of undiscovered artistic works on the website, as well as cryptic symbols that convey an unsettling aesthetic, including references to Nazi concentration camps. Two names are mentioned on the site, Anne Pierce and Frédéric Madret. While there isn't a lot of information on who Anne Pierce is, Frédéric Madret is a French man who happened to be the website's creator. The site also has a downloadable video game called, wait for it, Untitled Game. The games are separated into 14 folders, but they aren't like any games you've seen. One is entirely white, another is entirely black. You can't see a thing in both, but through sounds, it's clear your character is getting railed on. The game character can't do anything in others, making progress impossible. Only two seem to look like actual games. In all, Plenpo.com is an extremely weird site. HashimaIsland.co.uk. HashimaIsland.co.uk is an eerie website with detailed information, photos, historical context, and exploration videos of Hashima Island, a tiny abandoned island off the coast of Japan. The island was also known as Battleship Island because it looked like one. The website shows several eerie, decaying structures on the island, but there were once apartment blocks, a school, a hospital, a town hall, a cinema, and even a communal bath. They were all built on the dime of the Mitsubishi Company to run offshore mining operations. The island was abandoned in 1974 when coal mines began shutting down as coal gave way to petroleum. Today, tourists are the only people visiting Hashima Island. It is also protected as a UNESCO World Heritage Site, not just because the island was a symbol of the rapid industrial revolution of Japan, but because the island has a sordid history the Japanese government still refuses to face up to. Beginning from the 1930s, when Japan occupied Korea, and until the end of World War II, the miners at Hashima Island were replaced by Korean civilians and Chinese prisoners of war. They worked in the undersea coal mines as forced labor under very harsh conditions on the island. Anywhere from between 100 to over 1,000 of them died from malnutrition, underground accidents, and exhaustion. The 2017 movie Battleship Island is based on the horrors that went on there, yet Japan has continued to deny that any forced labor happened on Hashima Island. DeepDave.com. DeepDave.com is a haunting online memorial to the life and memory of Australian pilot and diver Dave Shaw. Shaw started the website to keep readers up with his passion for cave diving, a hobby he had picked up from his son. It was filled with stories and photos of his various dives across the world. Little did Shaw know that his passion would lead to his tragic death. On October 28, 2004, Shaw was 270 meters underwater in South Africa's Bushman's Hole, the third deepest freshwater cave in the world. He had already broken 4 records: depth on a rebreather, depth in a cave on a rebreather, depth at altitude on a rebreather, and depth running a line when he found a human body. It was Dion Dreyer. The 20-year-old South African diver had disappeared deep in Bushman's Hole 10 years earlier. His body had never been found. Dreyer's parents had placed a commemorative plaque on a rock wall above the entry pool, so every diver in Bushman's Hole knew of him. At first, Shaw tried to get Dreyer's body out, but the dead man's gear was stuck in the mud. After making sure Dreyer's body could be found again, Shaw left the body, but he planned to go back. He gave an update on the deepdave.com site about his next major dive scheduled for January 2005. It promised to be a big one. This time, not to break any records, but with a plan to recover Dreyer's body and reconcile him with his parents. In the weeks leading up to the dive, Shaw wrote about it on his blog extensively and detailed the recovery plan. On January 8, 2005, Shaw was back at the Bushman's Hole along with a whole team of people. As he dived, he took an underwater camera to record the recovery. Little did he know, it would record his death during the attempt. What was to be Shaw's 333rd dive became his last. Days later, while Shaw's technical equipment was being recovered, he and Dreyer's body were discovered floating close to the surface. Shaw had kept his promise to Dreyer's parents. He had brought their son home, but at a tragic cost. Shaw's website, deepdave.com, has been frozen since his last post about doing the recovery. It stands as a solemn reminder of the risks involved in extreme exploration. The Quiet Place Project.xyz. The Quiet Place Project.xyz is a peaceful and meditative website that encourages users to be introspective by providing a minimalist and silent online space disconnected from the noise of the internet. Visitors to the site can select The Quiet Place, which prompts them to take a moment away from everything. Or they can choose the 90-second relaxation exercise, which, as the name suggests, takes them through a 90-second relaxation reel. But if you're wondering why your memory of the Quiet Place Project.xyz isn't this, you're not the only one. This isn't the first version of the site. An earlier model had 4 different rooms. One of them was the Thought Room, where users anonymously share their inner thoughts, fears, and anxieties in a dialog box. Once they press the Enter key, they would watch the words disappear into the background. The site was created by Amate Tuito. They also went on to create the new Quiet Place Project as well. But while harmless in intent, some believe the website can evoke unsettling emotions as users are forced to confront their personal struggles and thoughts in isolation. Time Cube. In the earlier years of his life, Otis Eugene Gene Ray lived his life as an electrician, inventor, and champion marbles player who actively promoted the game of marbles. But somewhere along the way, Ray became a self-proclaimed doctor of cubism and the wisest human on Earth, his words. In 1997, when the internet was still in its infancy, Ray started his first of 4 separate websites, but his longest and most used site was Time Cube. The site was visually basic and filled with long, rambling, incoherent paragraphs. It might take a bit to wrap your head around everything, but the summary was that modern sciences were participating in a worldwide conspiracy to omit his theory. His theory? Time is a cube, and the 24 hours in each day are really 4 days occurring simultaneously. There were also diagrams that explained Ray's point of view. Each moment of the day, sunup, midday, sundown, and midnight, represents a different day. Each of those days was also 24 hours long. So while the average person only had 24 hours in each day, according to Ray, it was 4 days and 96 hours. Jesus, Socrates, Einstein, and Clinton also appeared in his graph of the time cube. But Ray didn't just stop at coming up with the time cube. As far as Ray was concerned, the 24-hour Greenwich time was a global conspiracy deliberately made up by scientists and the education system to hide the real truth of time from everyone. That time cube was real. Ray even spoke at an independent student-organized event at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology and the Georgia Institute of Technology, calling out scientists and teachers for spreading lies. He would also repeatedly promise thousands of dollars to anyone who could prove his theory wrong. Yet, no one did. Was this because Ray was right, or they all thought he was crazy? There are two popular schools of thought concerning Ray and the time cube. Either he really is the wisest man on Earth and the only person with the intellect to understand the time cube, or he was a paranoid schizophrenic who had developed an obsession with cubes. Ray died in 2015 at 87. The site went down a year later, but can still be found on the Wayback Machine. But his time cube theory lives on in memes on Reddit. Pimeyes.com. Pimeyes is an AI tool that was developed for facial recognition by two hackers in Poland. With $30, the picture of a face is scanned and Pimeyes scores through every part of the web for photos the face might have appeared in. The result is people finding pictures of themselves in the backgrounds of other people's photos they had no idea they were in. While it isn't always accurate for everyone, most people have reported that they did find pictures of themselves they had no idea they were in. Pimeyes sounds fun to many, and it might even be an excellent tool for security agencies looking for missing people and criminals. However, many have raised privacy concerns about this AI tool. For one, anyone can upload any photo to Pimeyes and do a search for nefarious purposes. This allows them to track anyone's identity and whereabouts, like stalkers, those searching for people in witness protection, or those searching for partners who had escaped abusive relationships. There have been legal battles and attempts to regulate its misuse, but Pimeyes remains, making it one of the internet's most controversial AI tools. TempleOS.org. In 2013, a schizophrenic computer programmer called Terry Davis announced that after 10 years and over 100,000 lines of code, he had single-handedly built a project he called TempleOS, an operating system that David had designed and created from scratch at his parents' house. While the OS was generally seen as a hobby system unsuitable for general use, it was Terry's launching pad to the world. Not just because of the sheer impossibility of what he had done, but also because of what he had to say about it. Terry claimed that God commanded him to do so, and it was supposed to be the third temple prophesied by the Bible, hence the name. Terry also said God gave him specific instructions for TempleOS, such as 640 by 480 resolution for all graphics, a single audio voice, and 16-bit colors. Terry also created his own programming language called Holy C. Holy C powers a music-creating software, a flight simulator, and other programs inspired by the Bible, like a simulator game called After Egypt, in which you climb Mount Horeb with Moses to see the burning bush. Terry had a large fan following in the tech world and was seen as very knowledgeable. Some even called him an internet legend, yet he remained a controversial figure because of his ailment. He often live-streamed on YouTube and talked about computer-related subjects, and would sometimes have random outbursts and make hostile statements. Other times using slurs and making racial comments, so his channel on YouTube and Reddit got taken down a lot of times. Terry's mental illness deteriorated over the years and he became homeless. He died in a train accident in 2018. Despite the controversies surrounding his life, David's life work, TempleOS, is still considered one of the most complex pieces of software ever written by a single developer. LiveLeak.com. Also known as the first YouTube of war, LiveLeak was a British video sharing site that was founded in 2006. The aim of the site was noble at first, to freely host actual footage of politics, war, and many other world events and encourage citizen journalism. But as time passed, LiveLeak became the go-to site for uncensored, explicit, raw, unfiltered, and violent content. The kind of videos that were impossible to find on mainstream sites like YouTube, CNN, or BBC. LiveLeak allowed users to post almost any video. They could be anything from real-world violence, controversial events, accidents, protests, and even war footage. Anyone could upload anything on the sites, from a camel drinking a bottle of Coke to videos of the execution of Saddam Hussein in 2007. The site even became popular with both soldiers and insurgents, and they would post raw and harrowing footage from Iraq and Afghanistan. Missiles being launched and people getting shot became commonplace on the site. Even the aftermath of the live execution of U.S. journalist James Foley by the Islamic State, showing his body, was on the site. The site was constantly under fire for what some saw as unethical and irresponsible reporting. For a long time, the owners of LiveLeak argued against censoring what was put on their site, claiming that the videos were real life and the site had a responsibility to show them. But the clock was ticking for the site, and in October 2020, after 15 years, the site was finally taken down for financial reasons and because they wanted to move away from the gore it had become known for. Today, anyone visiting the old web domain liveleak.com will be redirected to a new site called ItemFix. While users can still share videos on current events and viral topics, unlike LiveLeak, ItemFix is more moderated and community-friendly. Users are also banned from uploading any content with excessive violence or gore. Level 5. Graveface Museum. GravefaceMuseum.com is the website of an eccentric gallery called the Graveface Museum, with branches in Chicago and Georgia. The museum is the home of oddities and artifacts connected to sideshow history, true crime, cults, and even secret societies. Through the site, users can explore memorabilia from infamous cults and serial killers like John Gacy, the Killer Clown, and Edward Theodore Gain, also known as the Butcher of Plainsfield. The museum is home to the largest and most extensive collection of Gacy's artwork, personal effects, as well as artifacts from the Ed Gein case. The unsettling collection includes personal items, letters, and art preserved as the macabre artifacts of these infamous criminals, giving users an eerie glimpse into a serial killer's mind. AngelsHeaven.org. AngelsHeaven.org is a single lengthy page filled with disjointed text files and surreal imagery that promote a Czech and Slovak UFO religion called Universe People or Cosmic People of Light Powers. The religion was founded in the 1990s by Ivo Benda, who believes that extraterrestrial civilizations exist and communicate with Benda and other contactees either telepathically or directly. The website is filled with an enormous amount of text, illustrated flyers, videos, and stories. There are also downloads freely available in almost every language. The most popular phrase on the site is a warning not to get chipped, often followed by a picture of what this chip looks like. There are mentions of evil beings called Saurians and lizard people, but the most important figures in this religion is an alien entity called Ashtar Siran. When malevolent extraterrestrials come to Earth to enslave or destroy humanity, Ashtar will be here to protect the world. The religion preaches a distrust of modern technologies and wants to abolish money. They also believe mass media is a tool to oppress and manipulate minds, except when they're the ones using it. Level 6. Opentopia.com. Opentopia.com is a fly-on-the-wall website that automatically showcases thousands of live public webcams found online. Sometimes the footage could be as inconsequential as a food stall in Japan capturing people on the sidewalk, a farm, or even operating theaters. Opentopia.com automatically gets all its camera views from publicly available live video streaming feeds. A refresh on the page brings up new feeds each time, and it isn't just limited to public footage. Any unprotected camera can appear on the site, and shots from cameras and webcams in homes are pretty common. One Reddit user who used Opentopia a lot was shocked to see his home trending on the page. Any unprotected network camera. Many visitors to the site use it because it's a cheap way to explore global locations, but Opentopia.com could also prove to be a treasure trove for peeping toms and voyeurs out there. PlaneCrashInfo.com. PlaneCrashInfo.com is a website that started in October 1999 and has become a database of aviation accidents from 1908 to date. It contains information about plane crashes, including photos, details of the type and model of the plane, flight data, and passenger fatalities. The site also provides information about the causes of plane crashes, such as human error, cargo loading, obstruction on the runway, or even chance events. This clinical report on plane crashes and their causes made the site very popular with aviation enthusiasts and researchers. But there is a creepy side to the site. There's a section with the recordings and transcripts of the last words of pilots captured on black boxes before the airplanes crashed. These eerie messages from beyond the grave are a tragic reminder of people's last moments just before the disaster. Sentimentalcore.org. Sentimentalcore.org is an old site popular for its dark imagery and obscure claims about conspiracy theories. The site starts with pictures of many known world leaders and popular celebrities in the press, but these images aren't the type you'll find in the news. Their features are distorted. They're often naked and doing the most graphic and inappropriate things. Some has described the site as being anti-everything because of a series of messages around anarchy, far-right conspiracy theories, and the state of the world. There are also bizarre music videos, a lot of the time with swear words and graphic subject matter, like the one poking fun at Joe Biden. At the same time, it has a lot of symbolism related to the satanic cult with links that don't go anywhere. That's not all. Sections of the site named Parasite Dreams lead to weird animations made from the Sims game. As you go deeper into sentimentalcore.com, many links on the site link to different songs. There's even a page that lists an extensive musical collection that dates back to 1987. The composer of the songs is Randy Prozac. He also happened to be the creator of the site. There is very little information about Prozac online. He has also never said what the site is for, but there are rumors that Prozac is either a cult leader or mentally ill. Others believe he made the whole site up to draw attention to his music, or it's just a running joke. Heavensgate.com. With its free fonts, vintage web design, infographics, illustration, and color, Heavensgate.com is one website that appears to be stuck in the 90s. It is the official website of the Heaven's Gate cult, a cult that Marshall Applewhite and Bonnie Lou Nettles started. They preached a mix of Christianity, UFOs, and astronomy, convinced that they would be taken to the next level on a spaceship. The site had articles and transcripts of teachings by Applewhite like Planet About to be Recycled and Last Chance to Evacuate Earth. But this cult has a very grim history that dates back to almost 30 years in 1997, when an anonymous welfare check at a mansion in Rancho Santa Fe led to the discovery of 39 dead people with no noticeable signs of trauma. They all had on matching black uniforms and Nike sneakers. They had something else in common. They were all members of the Heaven's Gate cult. In 1995, when the news reported that the Hale-Bopp comet would be passing the Earth, the cult members were convinced that there was an alien spaceship tailing the comet that would take them to the next level, so they would escape the apocalypse. All they had to do was leave their earthly bodies. In the days before March 26, 1997, they recorded several farewell messages amidst jokes, laughs, and smiles. All of them would be dead by the next day. Yet Heavensgate.com, the website that lured them to take that final step, is still up and running, looking exactly like it would have 30 years ago. In 2013, a curious Redditor user emailed the address on the website and got a response. The answer was from Mark and Sarah King of Phoenix, Arizona. They're described as former members who left the Heaven's Gate cult 9 years before the deaths. However, many believe they are still loyal to the cult because they maintain the website. In 2018, Lil Uzi Vert was almost sued by Mark and Sarah after he posted a concept album art for an upcoming album that resembled the Heaven's Gate logo, leaving many to believe that they could still be using the site to recruit more people into the cult like Applewhite did 3 decades earlier. We might not know until it's too late. Danashine.com. In Japan, women are encouraged to leave the workforce when they get married, leaving them dependent on their husbands. This means that if their marriages turn out badly, many of these women are stuck, especially since divorce is still frowned on in Japan. So many of these women turned to the internet for relief, and it came in the form of a website called Danashine.com, a Japanese website that means husband, die. As the name suggests, Danashine is a site that allows women to anonymously post how and why they want their husbands to die. Some also pray to the website's god of death to take their husband away, much like the anime Death Note. But this morbid website isn't just filled with women wishing. Some of them return with stories that their husbands either died or got severely hurt in some way. However, some of these women are not willing to wait for nature to take its course, and some are willing to do their spouses by poisoning them. The site even has a monthly counter of how many successful husband deaths have occurred. Since its launch in December 2014, Danashine.com has received so many submissions that the creators partnered with publishers to print them as a physical book called Dana Death Note. The site also has an accompanying Twitter page, which is also filled with Japanese women venting about their husbands and wishing them dead. Despite all the backlash it has gotten, Danashine.com is still active. Level 7. Deathandhell.com. Deathandhell.com is an eerie website filled with religious and occult symbols linked to Satanism. The site begins with a lengthy statement from a dying man who had started losing his mind and made a website to preserve his memories. The site is divided into 25 segments represented by squares around a pentagram. They have bizarre names like Temple Dahmer, Puppet Master, and Murder, Death, and Sanity. Each of them leads to disturbing photographs and dark, incoherent ramblings about Satanism, occultism, the practice of magic rituals, and necromancy. But in between the satanic imagery, deathandhell.com also tells the story of its creator, a man called Charles Hiltzheimer, who went by the unsavory online name Infek bin Laden. He ran the Temple Dahmer and practiced chaos magic, but he also suffered from hallucinations after years of drug use. By the time Infek started deathandhell.com in the early 2000s, he was dying from cancer and wanted to immortalize his knowledge and his life. Tucked away between his thoughts on Satanism are letters from his sister Lori and pictures of himself from both younger and older years. Infek passed away in 2002, yet 2 decades on, deathandhell.com has stayed up and open to curious minds, except for the short period where the US government took it down. In his way, the magician continues to live on. Rotten.com. Rotten.com was a controversial shock site notorious for its disturbing and morbid content. The site became active in 1996 when people pushed the boundaries of online free speech. It quickly became an archive for gruesome and disturbing uncensored photos and videos, with users sending images of anything from crime scenes, human deformities, wars, accidents, and even nude photos. The site became widely popular and even had an online store where they sold merch like t-shirts, mouse mats, stickers, magnets, and bizarre DVDs. But as the years passed, troubles at Rotten.com grew, and they received more and more cease and desist notices from distraught relatives who found images of loved ones on the site. Updates to the site began slowing down and finally stopped in 2012. Today, the site is archived, but curious users still visit for a chance to explore this relic of a bygone internet era.